Today on The Domestic Geek, I'm going to show you how to make soft, chewy, salted caramel bites. These make the most incredible gift, or just keep them all for yourself. Now this salted caramel, I promise you, will absolutely blow your mind, but it is a bit of a labor of love. So you want to make sure that you have all your ingredients prepared beforehand and all of the utensils that you are going to need. In addition, I have prepared a pan like this. All I've done is taken some parchment paper and laid it out in 2 sheets across a 9x9 baking pan. I also have greased it with a little bit of canola oil. Be sure to prepare your pan beforehand. Then I've set out all my ingredients. We have 1.5 cups of sugar, 1/4 cup of corn syrup, 1/4 cup of water. Then we have 1 cup of cream, 1/4 cup of butter, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. To that we're gonna add a tablespoon of vanilla. Now I also have 2 pots standing by. So I have a small saucepan. This is going to heat our cream, our butter, and our salt. And then I have a much larger saucepan. Now you wanna make sure when you're working with sugar that you're working with a large saucepan because it tends to bubble up whenever you add anything. I also have a candy thermometer. Now, I highly recommend if you are going to be making caramel to invest in a candy thermometer. Mine was $8, but it's totally worth the investment because honestly, temperature can make or break your caramel. The other thing that is worth the investment is a good pastry brush. Now, basically, I've just dampened this with some water and we're going to use it to brush the sides of the pan just in case any rogue sugar crystals get outside of the actual sugar mixture itself. One little sugar crystal can ruin your entire batch of caramel. So we're going to start by heating our cream mixture. Now we're gonna do this over about medium heat. In our large saucepan, we are going to mix 1/4 cup of water, 1/4 cup of corn syrup, and then 1.5 cups of good old-fashioned sugar. You really wanna work on pouring your sugar in the center of your pot. You are trying to avoid getting any along the sides. And then just using a spatula, you just want to incorporate it until all of the sugar is moistened. And then we're going to turn our heat to about medium high. What we're looking for is this sugar to heat up to 300 degrees. So our cream mixture is heated, our butter is melted, and we want to turn this off the heat because we don't want to scald this. Just going to use my damp pastry brush. Brush down the sides to make sure I haven't gotten any sugar crystals up the side of the pan. Now, once we start heating this, we never stir it again. You'll start to see some small bubbles forming around the side as it heats, and then eventually it will all fill in and become just one big bubbly concoction. Couple quick notes of caution when you are working with candy. The first thing is you never want to leave it unattended. It burns very quickly. In addition to that, this concoction gets very, very hot and can scald you very easily, so use extreme caution. So our sugar has reached 300 degrees, turn off the heat. In goes our cream and butter mixture. This will bubble up, so just be very cautious as you're mixing. We are going to turn the heat back on, and now we're going to wait for the temperature to return to about 245 degrees. All right, so we have reached 245 degrees. We are going to take this guy off the heat. We're going to add a splash of vanilla. You're gonna see quite a reaction when that vanilla gets added. And then we wanna make sure when we're stirring it, we are not scraping the bottom because you don't want any burnt bits coming off. We're just gonna slam it on the counter a couple times to get out any air bubbles that may have formed while it was cooking. Then we're gonna leave this and let it set for about 30 minutes. All right, so our caramel has been setting for about 30 minutes. Now it's time to just top it with some salt. I'm using pink Himalayan sea salt, but you could use any salt you like. You could use some Fleur or some coarse sea salt. You just wanna make sure that you can see it on the surface because it adds a really beautiful aesthetic to your final product. Our beautiful caramel is perfectly set. It's been sitting for about 2.5 hours now. As you can see, it is very sticky, which is why it's so critical that we really oiled our parchment paper well. And look at that. Because we're gonna be giving these away as gifts, we're just gonna discard the sides. This is all for you to eat. Don't sweat it. Now, when you're cutting this caramel, you wanna make sure you are using a really sharp knife and that you have secured your cutting board to the counter. I would not wanna see any accidents. And what you have are these perfect little chewy caramel bites. Look at the texture of that. Now you can imagine, just by looking at it, how chewy it's going to be. But of course I'll taste it just in case. Oh my gosh. What I've done is created these little wax paper rectangles. These are perfect for wrapping and rolling each individual little caramel bite. Now I like to put it salt side down to preserve the sort of prettiness of that. And then just twist. Make these, I promise you will not be disappointed. They are worth every moment that you put into them, and they totally melt in your mouth. Subscribe to The Domestic Geek for more deliciousness just like this.